Here we are. 28 CDI, it's leaking badly from the mains, I think. Haven't checked that, but it's also leaking apparently very badly from up here, from this valve up here. So either from something there or in between here or here. There's something here leaking anyway. So let's get to it and have a look. Okay, so the leak looks to be coming from one of the connections in here. Let me show you what I do with this grey panel. Okay, this grey panel, apparently this got wet, so it's not working either, but someone's going to drop me off the board. That's going to end up in there if I'm not careful, so for now I'll leave that up. Open this. Getting in there anyway. All is down. Take that out completely. Let's move that out of the way so it doesn't get wet. There we go. Ready to go. Get these white tabs. Pull them out. Drop that down a bit. Pop the tabs here for the gauge. There it comes, and yeah, it's earth. Electrics out of the way. Okay, so this leaking good appears that I can see coming from this connection here. So if I put my finger there, you can see it's wet. I believe it's coming from there. All the other connections look good. It's obviously mains. The engineer also tells me that it's leaking from here, this plastic piece at the back. He's replaced that diverter, and this he can't get his leak here to stop. He says he's had it apart several times and changed the O-rings and stuff, and it floods out here apparently. I can't see anything wrong floods out here apparently. I can't see anything wrong at the moment, so I'm gonna have a look, take this all out I guess. Stops. Alright, so that works. So we know it is the mains leaking on that side. So let's try and get some water in there and see what's leaking on this side. These sort of both valves here isolated. So there we go. That's what he meant. It's pouring out of there. Hey, oh, trying to get it on my phone. Pouring out of there. Can't see why, but as the plate's coming off, I might just pull the diverter out anyway and check that, because that does all look correct in there. This I will blow out afterwards, okay? It's soaking wet. I will not put that back on wet. Okay, so I took the plate off, undone a nut here, the clip here, so yeah, nut here from underneath, clip here, pulled that off, that just comes out straight. It's very dirty in there, so that will need to clean up before it goes back in. Everything looks good though. So there's that. Are we going to go through all of this? I think we're going to have to, eh? Close that bit. That bolt isn't in. Don't know why. So I'll toss this in the middle. pulled the clip off this. This is the plastic, the black plastic version. So on that you have a clip here that you slide off, pull the fill-in loop assembly out of the diverter. That's now out of the way. I've undone the screw and the bolt back here. We'll undo this as well. I don't think you need to, but I'll undo that as well. There should be another one in there that's missing, but anyway, I've undone this nut. Now, for me, the worst bit of this is always this bypass pipe here that runs all the way across and around the back there. I always find that very difficult to get in and out. As you can see, this engineer didn't take it out because it's still very dirty, so he managed to do it without doing that. So I'm going to give that a go, but I've now started undoing these screws on this side. So I'm going to undo the last two, pull this whole assembly towards me, and I should be able to pull that and the diverter straight out. I don't know how he got this out, unless maybe he undoes that nut there off the pump. Has got some apprentice marks on it, so maybe it has. Maybe that is how he done it. Anyway, so that's the next thing. This clip, that clip, pull that pipe out, then undo the two screws and pull this forward and try and have a look and see what's going on, and see if I do need to take the boiler off the wall to change the isolation valve behind it. So all good fun. Now if you're a new engineer, as you do this, you need to remember what size screws go where. There is a lot of them, but once you've done a couple you'll just know, so you don't have to be so worried about it. Okay, so I got that out. I must say the O-ring on this valve here does not look proud at all. Do you know what I mean? Doesn't look proud at all. Definitely looks smaller than the brass piece, so that's the wrong O-ring on there. You know, if I'm lining up with it perfectly, right, you should see the O-ring just bulging out ever so slightly, and it's not. So he's been using the wrong O-ring on there. I'm going to change the O-ring for the right one that's got to sit proud. So let me get a nice shot of that. Okay, I'm going to take a photo of it and then I'll change the O-ring and we'll see. Okay, so just so you know, this is what I've been sent here with. This is a new isolation valve. There's the Worcester part number. Now if you've never done one of these before, you probably don't realise that to replace this you have to take the boiler off the wall. So you split the jig. The jig is, this plate here is not part of the jig. The jig is behind this plate. So that's the front plate, that's the back plate, which is the jig. So you have to undo these bolts. Undo these bolts that hold it all together, take the flue off the top, pull the whole boiler forward and lift it off the jig, and then from that point there then you can change the valve if you need to. However, on this job here it'd be even more difficult because the pipework runs up the back, so you may not even be able to do it like that. You may have to even take the jig off the wall to be able to have enough room to do that. So this is not a fun job. One day I'm going to do a nice video on these vessels. I've done a few of these, maybe 3 of these. They're quite involved, but there's no way I'd do it just for the fun, just showing you. So we'll see. Now, sorry, what I've got to mention, where I'm lucky here, I have the O-ring in the pack for the valve. So I'm going to get the O-ring out of here and hopefully I'll compare it to this and it will not be this O-ring, hopefully. And if that's the case, we should just be able to get the correct O-ring out of this pack, match it up with this one and fit in that, and we should be good to go, hopefully. Okay, so let's try and get a good shot of this. I don't want to drop my phone in the water though. Let's zoom in on there. There we go. So very hard to do this looking for a camera. I really hope that is the wrong size. There it is. It looks very similar, but very slightly thinner, no? Am I just imagining? I think that is just ever so slightly thinner than that one. So I think that's the wrong O-ring. So in here I have to find the correct one. So let's I'll try and get it all in one shot, okay? So I think this O-ring here is this one, okay, which is ever so slightly fatter than this one that came out of the boiler. So that's what came out of the boiler. I believe that's the O-ring for it, which is bigger. And that O-ring is that O-ring there, which is not the correct one. So I believe it's this O-ring and that's the problem. So I'll clean that up. That's all lovely and clean. So I'm going to grease it, put the other one on, and we'll see where we're at. Right, so I've greased it. I haven't put back in that same size one, I've put in the slightly fatter one. And now if we look at this, you should be able to just see the O-ring sticks out ever so slightly proud. Hold on. Let me wipe the grease off here, and hopefully you can see. Oh, it's only by a little bit. Oh, it's very difficult to show you actually. So like I say, I can see with my eye that the O-ring is proud all the way around. Let me wipe the grease off here, see if I can show you a bit. Just getting a lot of glare off it. It's very difficult to see, but it is there. Trust me, the O-ring now sticks out proud on that piece. Therefore, I think I'll put this back together and it will seal. So, for me, when I do the divert valve, it's always this one that leaks. Always. So I take a lot of time in getting this one clean and greasing it. This is the mains inlet. But for me, this is the one that always leaks. This O-ring feels good. So I'm guessing he changed that, so I'll grease that. This O-ring here has a little nick out of it actually. Can you see that? So he's just caught that when he was doing something. It's difficult to see, but there is a nick in that O-ring. There you go. There's a tiny nick on it there. So I will change that one. That one's done. I will grease this one. Like I say, for me that's one that always leaks. And the hardest bit of this whole job for me is getting this bypass pipe back in. You've got to make sure the part it goes into is spotless. The one I'm fitting now is brand new, so it should be straightforward. As usual, it's all about the pink cloth. Let's take that back out now. Lovely. Let's get it back together. So everything's cleaned and greased. That O-ring's back on that bypass pipe there. So I'm going to get the diverter section back in. I need to get a fibre washer for that one. And yeah, be back in a sec. I'll get that in and be back in a sec. Obviously, when I go to push this one on here, I'm going to check to see that as I push it on, I feel the resistance of the O-ring making contact with the inside of the part. Because it could always be that this part is not quite to manufacturer's spec, and that the hole's just ever so slightly too large, because it's a brand new part, and obviously that's a brand new part as well. So anyway, we will see. So I've got that back in. Obviously with that you need to make sure that what often happens is you're pushing this clip in, and because you haven't managed to push the pipe far enough down, the clip actually goes in where the O-ring sits, damages the O-ring. So again, look, I'm looking in there, I can see it with my phone that the clip is on top of the copper. You need to be able to see that, simple as that. I didn't have to take that bracket off here, that's there ready to go, and I've got a new washer ready to go in there. So I'm now going to lift that all on and push it on the back here and in that hole back there, and we'll see how that feels, see if it feels right. Go for it. Right, so that went on okay, and that one went in okay at the back there. So can't even see that really, can you? There, so there we go, there's a better shot. That one went in okay. So first thing I'm going to do, as this is the part that was leaking, I'm going to put the screws in that and tighten that up first. I moved that bracket out of the way. I moved that bracket out of the way to make it a bit easier. So I'm going to take that off the diverter and pop it back on there and put that screw back in. And I'll do this nut, change that washer because it's definitely got a little mark in it, and I'll show you that. And put the filling loop back in. Don't forget to do that now, and then get the heat exchanger on there. Well, no, don't forget to do that as well. Put the little top hat on the pin here. Make sure you put the top hat on it, put that on it, and the clip to holding that on. You can't see this clearly, but there is just a little nick out of it. Can you see that little tiny nick out of it? You see that little nick out of it? It's just a tiny, tiny little nick. But that's probably why that was leaking. With O-rings, they have to be really quite... They can be a bit flat and stuff, but they can't have any obvious cuts or nicks in them. Especially not on the sealing surface. So on this O-ring, it's the outside edge, the inside edge that do the sealing. So they can have a little nick on the face of it, as such, on there or there, but not on the top bits or the inner bits. They have to be okay. So that O-ring's getting changed now. Okay, so changed that O-ring. The nut's now tight. I've got all of this on. Yeah, that's an 8mm, that's a 10mm, and obviously the screw. And the bit I've forgotten a few times anyways, this micro switch and the top hat in there, that little plastic bit that goes on the spindle. I forgot that a few times. It's a bit fiddly with the heat exchanger back in to do it. So now I'm going to put the heat exchanger back in here. I'm going to put a fibre washer there. This is all greased and ready, and obviously this clip is a little bit fiddly. So we're getting there slowly. Oh, no I'm not. Next one I'm going to do is the filling loop. That's the next thing, then the heat exchanger. Okay, so it's all back in now. I did mean to say these get blocked quite a lot now. I mean, this is an old boiler. If that's the case, what I do is with I wish this was my bucket, this is the customer's, but if I have that, I just put a big towel down, get my bucket underneath it, take it out completely, and just screwdriver up there, nice and quick to unblock it, and it will go with a bang. So just make sure you're doing it nice and quickly. Same with this side, obviously, with that one back there. Same thing. They get blocked, bucket underneath, towel down, screwdriver, job done. But yeah, it's a bit you'll have the customer coming back into the kitchen, popping their head in like, oh, what was that? Because they hear a loud bang and a lot of water. But this is the only way to do it, I've found, unless you're going to drain out the PRV. If it wasn't this type, then maybe these ones are a pain to undo, to split them, to try and clean them afterwards. So I tend to stay away from them ones. I tend not to go near them. If I had to drain using that, I'd clean these out once it was drained, and I'll also just replace that one for the orange cap version. So I'm now going to turn the valves on and turn the water back on. Okay, so here it is. Just over a bar in there. I will leave this boiler on a bar once it's done. I haven't turned the mains on yet, because it's got an external filling loop there, so that was much easier to fill up rather than using this thing with a key. So I'm going to give that a few minutes. I'm just going to get a little bit more organised here because I'm a bit messy. And in that time I'll be keeping an eye out for any drips or anything like that. Then I'll turn the mains on, so I can be pretty sure the heating would be fixed, and the mains I will find out afterwards. Time to tidy up. Okay, so as you'll see here, I've got a lot of gear in here with me. That's because I can't park nearby this property, and I didn't want to have to go back to the van. But this is what I used to complete this repair. Obviously, it all speaks for itself. The thing I will say is these are Nipex. I do like Nipex grips over the Rothenberg ones. I broke 2 pairs of Rothenbergs, so I don't use them anymore. I do have them on the van as a backup, but this is what I've used, and that was just using a Phillips head, a flat, and you saw I take that bit out, put it in that screwdriver there to use it as a long screwdriver, little Phillips and a flat and a big flat that's kept in the body of that. And the only other thing you will need, the other things you will need is obviously something to drain it into, which is this big bucket, and I'm going to go and get my, well, I've got it in here, sorry, my analyzer and my U-gauge for doing my safety checks. Other than that, everything else, all your other tools are not needed. Generally speaking, to fix boilers, you don't need a crazy amount of tools. So like, you don't need these enormous backpacks and stuff people carry. So like I say, this one here, this is all I used. All of that is kept in my tool roll. Okay, so the mains is back on now. Don't appear to have any leaks, even from my most favourite joint up there. That is all grease. Nothing is leaking out of in here. That is all dry. So I'm now going to do my visuals, get the electrics back on, so I've got to get that bung back in there, get the electrics back on there, make sure this connection's dry because it always gets wet, and see if it works. Like I say, someone told me the board got soaked here, so they don't expect it to work, and they're meant to be dropping me a board, but they haven't done that yet, so get that back together and we'll see. Okay, I thought I'd show you this a bit closer. That's how I take it out. So we can't get water on that. I mean, apparently it's already got water on this one, but anyway. So take off the combustion cover, unplug the 2 electrodes and pull out the bung. And then just take off the bottom and get everything unplugged from there, which is then why it's there, and there. Pop out the gauge and then away you go. Now it's these white pins that hold it in, and they've got little O-rings on them usually, so let's wiggle these out. They're a bit stiff on this side. Yeah. Okay, there you go. So have a little O-ring. So if they're stiff, it's just because that O-ring needs greasing. So that one's really stiff. This other one is probably really stiff. Not too bad. So I'll grease them as well, just to make my life easier putting it back together, and I'll get it in, the pins go in there and there, and get the electrics back together and see if it works. Okay, I always find this boiler hard to bleed. I always do it the same way. Put a cloth underneath the pump. This is open. Boiler's running, I'll just leave that open, make sure that end of it drips into a bucket. It doesn't, for me, it's never gone in through the knobs and caused the board to fail or anything like that. So I just leave that open. That's bubbling away. That's bubbling away, so it's open. This is done now, so now I'm going to run a hot tap, do my combustion analysis, and then do my burner pressure. And I'll be out of here with one fixed boiler that was close to being written off, I reckon. So anyway, let's do that now. Okay, that's bled now. Running a fire for hot water. As you can see, that's coming down, that combustion ratio. So I'm going to get a photo of that for my office. Pretty stable. This is another thing I like about Kane. Look, I left my U-gauge in the van, my van's a long way away, but you can just take the point out of your analyzer probe, put it in there. Now you may well be able to do that with Anton. In fact, Anton, I think you can just put a U-gauge tube straight onto it. But yeah, I do like that you can do that. LDF that. LDF that, that's it, all good. Boiler's running. There we go, boiler's running. I did LDF that. Good to go.